Well, hi, Desiree. It's so good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I appreciate your time being here. I'm excited to share a bit of you behind the scenes, with the world. You are chapter five's case study. I love your case study and where you've gone just with everything that you've branded yourself on and all of the things you care so deeply about. It's so fun to watch and be part of that journey. And so let's just start there. Tell us a little bit about
Right.
yourself and how you came to be.
A little background about me is I was born in Los Angeles. I was raised by a single mother, and she raised
Mhm.
three of us. So I think my journey started with her. She was just strong and resilient. I think at a certain point she had three jobs. I remember thinking, I need to work, I need to do well, because I didn't want her to have to work that much anymore. So it always came from a place of like helping people. I was by nature an empath. And the one thing she always told me was to get my education. I think she told me once it was, if you think an education is expensive, try ignorance. And it really stuck with me.
Yeah.
She made me get a job in high school because she said I needed to get experience. And I worked at Taco Bell, and I remember thinking to myself, I need to go to school. And I got into UC Davis with my undergraduate, for my undergraduate degree. So my mom was working at a fertility clinic, and I knew that growing up. And there was one day where I met the lab director, and he told me, once you go to college and you graduate, come talk to me and you can work in the lab. So I always remembered that. And when I went to UC Davis, I did my major in sciences. I was doing cognitive neuroscience. So I had the requirements to become an embryologist and work in a lab. I started there as a lab assistant, and I quickly fell in love with just like processes and systems and protocols and just like cleaning up things as much as possible. I was working really closely with the director, and I was promoted from a lab assistant to become an embryologist. And I remember thinking that I loved the science. It was fun to see an embryo develop. It's just some people never get to see that behind the scenes. And I really miss the human interaction. The most I would see is if I would collect a specimen from the collection room, and then if I would go do a transfer. And that was kind of the few moments where I would bring the catheter out with the embryo, and then that was it. So I decided to go to school and again at UC Davis, and that's when I met you, to get my master's. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but one day at work, my mom came up to me. She approached me and she said, how difficult or how easy is it to do these transportations of the biological specimens from clinic to clinic? And I told her on my end it was really easy. And she told me on her end the paperwork was really easy. So that's when we had this idea to help transport specimens, but I never got started because I couldn't think of a name. And that's when I met you in
Hmm.
your seminar class, and you helped me because that was the last missing puzzle. I knew what I needed to do, but I couldn't develop anything because I just, again, was stuck with the name. And once you told me, what about biomat transport? I'm like, wait,
Hmm.
that's the one. And everything was so much easier because of that.
Yeah, sometimes when it's not quite coming to you, you really have to just take a step back and talk to someone that is a little blind to it, right? I mean, I think part of it is just the ability for someone to be outside it because you are so passionate and you're in it and you know it. And I remember it almost seemed too simple to you, you
It
know?
did. I was kind of
Um,
just amazed that I'm like, wow, that was it. And it's exactly what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah. And tell me just upstream a bit. A common assumption I think that people make in your industry is that if someone moves or if they're moving from like one clinic to another in the same process, right? If they're doing different parts of the same um, uh, IVF process in two different clinics for various reasons. I think the assumption is the embryos that are created travel and they travel safely, right?
Yeah.
And you questioned that. That was a big because here you are having basically created these embryos for, 9 years, I think. And at a certain point, I think you told me you sat there and you questioned the process of are these really traveling safely? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, these companies that had a name like me, it sounded like Biomat Transport. Um, they were actually using just shipping services that we use through Amazon and regular shipping services. And I remember thinking that a lot of those items are x-rayed if they're transported through a plane, just different things. And I wasn't sure how they were guaranteeing that it was not x-rayed. Because if you x-ray an embryo or sperm or an egg, it will not survive. And that was kind of one of the selling points where I wanted to guarantee that this shipper tank would never leave our side. So it made it really easy to kind of build, trust with the patients, yeah, their patients, um, and have them know that we're going to be reporting throughout the whole process when we pick it up, when we're at the airport, when we land. So they were updated the entire time, and it wasn't just like a machine; it was a person holding it.
It's interesting because it wasn't so much of the business opportunity at first as it was that mission of, you know, here's this thing that happens on the side that no one thinks about, right? That's one of the most special things I think about your story is that it kind of came from this place of like, this is already such an uncertain process. People already have such deep feelings tied to it, right? This is like one of
Right.
the most important things that people come to you for, right? Like you are in the business of creating this dream for them, and you see this thing that they don't see, and I love that that is what kind of formed the dream. Then like you started kind of really questioning so many parts of this industry, right? Of creating a family. And so tell us a little bit, Biomat Transport, you launch it and you name it, obviously you name it, you launch it,
Thank you.
and it goes well, right? Because people feel that passion from you, in the book. I chose your case study, primarily for the chapter where we talk about like in the personal brand we have this thing that corporate brands don't, which is a cool advantage, right? Corporate brands, they need to add like the Geico lizard to their brand to be
Right,
more personal, right? Or the Oscar Mayer wiener, or they need
right,
spokespeople or whatever, right? But you don't need to add an Energizer bunny because you are that human form that has these experiences. And for you, like sometimes people experience exactly what they start their personal brand about. Sometimes it's a little different. And so for you, it's like these years of observing these families who really want children. And so it wasn't just biomat transport that you started, it led to other things. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what else it led to?
I think that you beautifully explained my entire process in a shorter version than what I said. So yeah, after Biomat, I continued to take more courses in the marketing world, in the marketing courses at UC Davis with you. And a lot of what I was learning in my courses at the company I was at, which was a surrogacy agency at that point, I was just seeing how they were not incorporated at all. There was no actual processes or protocols, or just no systems in place. And the number one thing that really stood out to me was that the customer wasn't the focus of their business. It was growing their pockets. And that's okay, I guess, for some people. And I just did not relate to it. And it was going against everything that I was learning. And while I was at this company, I began thinking how I could branch out. In the meantime, while I was there, I did create a notary business because every surrogacy contract needs to get notarized. So I saw a way to just kind of branch out a little bit more from this company and start creating another, like another
Well, yeah,
security.
because you told me that sometimes people too, and this is what I love about how you look around the corners. You told me that like sometimes people even miss a cycle because they miss the note they don't know they need a notary. It's to me, it's just like, I never would have thought there's such these little tiny things along the way, for lack of a better way to say it, that in this industry that, can be complicating factors and you see them so well. I think that's so amazing.
I really appreciate that. And I do think detail is important. And
Yeah.
I think just kind of trying to create a system that works for the majority is important, but
Mhm.
still being able to be flexible and meet the standards for each type of patient and kind of give them the care they need.
Yeah.
And so the notary business was more of like more exposure to my entrepreneurship. I don't know if we want to call it that, or a lifestyle that I'm trying to pursue. And I, so after I was working at this company for I think it was about 2 years, I had a disagreement with management, and it was something that was going on with the patients. And they were just charging fees where I didn't think fees needed to be charged. It was very just different beliefs. And I remember he said, when you have your own company, you can call the shots. And I remember saying, you know what? I'm not going to respond. I'm going to say, okay. And I took that in and I thought about it and I said, I am already here developing all of their systems for them, and I can do this for myself, and I can do it the way I want to treat people, and I want people to feel like this is all they're already coming to us because they don't want to. They have to. So it doesn't have to be a bad experience. And out of we're the last step, right? People usually try
For
IVF first.
surrogacy,
Oh,
yeah. By the time they get to surrogacy, they're usually feeling
exactly.
really beat up.
Defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just didn't appreciate the lack of systems and check-ins, for a lack of a better word, for the clients. And I quit. I didn't have anything lined up. I was like, I'm going to do this for the next few months. It was really nerve-wracking, but I had just finished school. I thought it was a good time. And I started developing all of my handbooks, my systems, and but I do have to say that every single time I couldn't get started without the name. And when I thought of Baby Moon, um, I was with a family friend, and we were going through names back and forth, and she's like, "What about something with Baby Moon?" And then I was like, "Oh, like yes,
Yeah.
that works." Because if people don't know, Baby Moon is kind of like a honeymoon. You take it
Yeah.
before your baby's delivered. So I thought, okay, that's what we're doing. We're gonna get your baby going here, and you're going to be able to take a vacation. Don't worry about anything on your end. Enjoy yourself, and you're going to have your baby when you get back, or at the end of our surrogacy journey with us. So after that, it kept going, and it just I really really love that these families are here trying to do everything they can to have their own child, and just creating a system or culture or just experience for our clients really makes a difference. And I thought my aha moment was going to be for the track, like gaining traction was going to be when I closed the 10 matches. I said my first year I'm going to close 10 matches, and I did.
Mhm.
And I was happy, but I'm like, why don't I feel satisfied? And a little like a month later or so, as people got further along in their journey, I started getting feedback from the clients. And I think that was my aha moment of like, okay, I'm doing something good. Like they're having a good experience. They're happy with our communication. They feel like this isn't as miserable as they thought it was going to be. And they're connecting with their surrogates because we're creating an environment between both of them to connect. So it's just so much detail and so many emotions that we have to be so careful with the way we phrase things. Like it just even our booklets have to be careful with the terminology. And I think
Yeah.
I just care so much, I can find those details.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that also stood out to me when you were talking to me about baby moon surrogacy is things that you would just assume happen, but once you hear about them, but don't necessarily, like these documents that create communication between that family seeking a child and that surrogate parent, like, those updates, those like, and then those parents seeking a child, like this week your baby is the size of, whatever
Exactly.
fruit or vegetable, which, like, you can sign up for emails. I remember when I was pregnant with my kids, I would sign up for the email updates of like what's going on. And I can see how it could be missed, in the surrogacy industry, that, sometimes the parents who are seeking the child aren't brought along, on that part of the journey. And again, that's where you're looking around the corner. But I think one reason I love this service first aspect to personal branding, and in your case it spills over to the company, right? Because I mean that's how it should be, right? If you do this system well, that we talk about in the book, that I teach about, like, you're going to succeed with business or personal, right? Branding is branding. But it is scary sometimes, I think, to say, first, I'm serving. I'm leading with the value, I'm leading with the impact, because, you risk leaving some money on the table. If you're transporting embryos yourself, for example, that's costlier. If you are streamlining certain parts of the surrogacy process where sometimes usually you get extra cost because maybe things have gone wrong,
Yeah.
well, you're giving up profit, but you're serving the person better at the end of the chain. And so tell me a bit about how
Exactly.
that feels, and how is that to stick by it? I'm sure it's not always easy.
It's not, because as you know, we have contracts that we have to follow to a certain extent, and I I think there's a lot of emotional feelings, especially after a transfer. You don't know if a surrogate's pregnant or not, and then let's say she's not pregnant, parents get scared and they don't want to do a second transfer, but they agreed to three transfers. And I think what I do in those steps is first I always lead with validating of feelings. And the next I would say that I try to comfort them and educate them, because what I shared with them before signing on with us was that we're always going to communicate with you. We're going to educate you. You're going to have communication with us. So I just told them about who we are, just basically our brand and what we stand for. And I don't think it's always easy, but I try to remember that this is coming from a place of fear for them. So it makes it a lot easier to respond in an sympathetic way, I apologize, sympathetic
Right.
way, than a business perspective solely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for making that difference for people. I just, and putting that before, that bottom line. Again, like, it's just part of personally who you are, and it just bleeds over.
Yep.
And what do you think? So in 5 to 10 years, what do you think Desiree will be up to?
Hopefully, still developing this because I want to see the future generation that we helped create. I'm hoping to see just the families just sharing their memories that they're creating. And I don't know where I'll go next. I'm pretty booked up with the three things that I have right now. But overall, I think I just want to continue to grow the team and spread awareness and try to find ways to make surrogacy accessible to anyone.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Desiree. Is there anything you didn't get to touch on that you wanted to visit?
I don't think so. No. I was trying to say if I
Okay.
wrote, but we touched on name because I wanted to say like that really got me going.
Yeah. No, isn't it funny how just stepping outside helps so much sometimes. Well, thank you, Desiree. I appreciate the time so much, and I appreciate you being a case study in the book, such an illustrative case study of one of the concepts. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, and I appreciate your guidance. I'm here today because of something that you helped me with as well.
Oh, thank you. All right, have a good one.
Bye.